across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill. Look, tonight is the clearest example yet of the government versus the people. We can see Lord Justice Bean, he's a man who was tied to Labour. He has blocked the removal of 128 migrants from the Bell Hotel in Epping. And once again, the courts, the law and Labour side with illegal migrants over the rights of the British taxpayer and British citizens. This is the politicisation of the justice system, people. Make no word about it. Migrants stay, locals pay. A migrant now has more rights than the British taxpayer who funds the hotel. The Bell Hotel is no longer just a hotel, it's a symbol, and in a country where law, Labour and the Home Office stand together, it's against its own people. 0344 499 1000, that is the number to call. Text 82777, 87222, and message at TalkTV to get your voice across. Thank you very much. Oh my God, we've got so much to get into tonight. I'm joined with Pete Barnes, political strategist.
Hi,
he
Samara.
is raring to go.
Yes, oh my God, this is such a day, a monumental day. No matter what side of the fence you sit on this issue, I mean, I think it's a really good point that you made, that this has become the symbol. It's like the lightning rod of this entire crisis is this one hotel in Epping, which most people probably couldn't point to on a map if they tried. But I'm going to be very controversial and say this was the right decision.
What?
This was. You want to talk about politicalization?
Pete, wait. Just wait a second. Are you serious? Wait, are you absolutely serious here? You're going to take this position on this story?
I am, but not because I think that people should stay in the hotel. The people
You're
shouldn't
going to need a really good explanation for this, Pete.
Because
this is absolutely...
I know, it's controversial, but it's because I don't believe that we should run the country like it's a mood board. You know, just because a lot of people are shouting very loud doesn't mean it's the right decision. Because when you look at this, in what world is a civilized, developed Western nation, how is its entire immigrant policy, migration policy, being decided on by a planning issue by the courts? This is an absence of
Wait a second, Pete. I think you're forgetting what's actually at the heart of this. I don't want to talk about it too much because it is an open case, but there was an Ethiopian asylum seeker who was accused of some very egregious things. He was a resident of the hotel. There's not much more I can say on that, but there is a reason that the British people's kindness has been taken for weakness here. That it's not just about planning permissions. It's not just about box ticking. This is about an emotional reaction to something really real.
That's perfectly reasonable. However, that's not the case. That is not the case that was before the courts to deal with. This case was based on a planning issue. This is my big problem with what people are doing. They're taking everything and lumping it all together. That is very lazy arguments, and there's a danger of this spiralling out of control, and is only going to add to increased tension. What we've got to understand is the courts did not...
What do you mean by everything?
Because the courts did not create this problem. Yet again, our legal system has been made to make a judgment because we have cowards for politicians. We have cowards in Westminster who will not make the decision. So what they've done is they've yet again given it to the courts to do, so they get to hide behind the decision. That's what this is for the government now. It's the perfect political cover, because you can't say, oh, we can't go against it because the courts made the decision. What we've actually got here is a kind of, yet again, the way of government weaseling around the law.
Wait a second.
This isn't us versus them at all. Not really.
This is very much us versus them. I mean, may I remind you that, first of all, obviously the first ruling didn't have the Home Office involved. The Home Office then got in the ear of these judges.
No, that's not quite right, because the judge was well within his rights to consult the Home Office the first time round. They chose not to. That was the decision of the judge. That wasn't the Home Office sneaking into the rulings. That was the legitimate way in which these things were done.
The Home Office was not happy with that initial decision. That's no secret.
Well, of course they weren't. They went against them. Nobody in that position would be happy with that ruling. If, from the government's perspective, that was a catastrophe for them. Just because this idea there's some kind of collusion, I'm sorry, I don't think the evidence is there for that, because The first judge had the right to consult the Home Office, and they chose not to. This one didn't.
You don't think the evidence is there? I mean, genuinely...
I think we're jumping from A to Z and missing out all the letters in between.
They said within that ruling that the lawyer argued that the rights of the migrant is above the rights of the British people. The rights of the illegal migrant.
Yeah, I sat in this very chair.
How is that not clear, Pete? How is that not clear?
I sat in this very chair when that decision was made. I was sat across from me in Collins. I said that you've just proven 2 tiers justice. But again, that is not this case. We keep conflating everything in together.
The reason that everyone's so upset about this case is because it's so clear-cut.
No. The reason everybody's upset about this case is because people have lied to them, believing that the protest had anything to do with the court case. It didn't. The protest had no impact in forcing the courts to do anything. There was no capitulation by the government on the issue of immigration at all, and it's only the government that can change that decision. Anybody who got up and said that this was some kind of big win for the protesters lied to you.
Okay, I want to get some reactions from you. Nigel Farage has said the government has used the ECHR against the people of Epping. Rupert Lowe has said no more appeals, court cases or debates. Deport them, not some, not most, all. And the government's excuse to this has said that basically they've said they have a legal obligation to house asylum seekers.
Yes.
That's what's going on here.
Yeah, it is. And again, I don't disagree with Rupert or with Nigel, but what I'm going to say is this is the law as it stands. This has been the law for a very long time.
Yeah, but answer me this. Labour's official stance on this is let's get we want to get all asylum seekers out of hotels by the end of our tenure.
Yeah.
Why are they blocking this then? That's the closure of one hotel. Why do they not want to shut down a single hotel?
Because it's not shutting down a single hotel, and this was in the judgment as well. And I do agree with Lord Justice Bean on this, because what you would then do is every single council would go to the courts and get every single hotel shut down all at once.
Okay, let's listen to someone reasonable. Let's listen. Chris, come in from Epsom. Chris, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Hi, Samara. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, now listen, I'm going to unpack this for you because you've both got it a little bit wrong. First of all, the council has made untold mistakes when the planning permission was applied. They let it slip. They didn't do anything about it. It was going to be, the hotel was going to be used again. They should have taken it up. They were lazy and tawdry. That has caused the main problem. Secondly, their litigation team was absolute rubbish. They did not go to the judge with any evidence of criminality of the people there. They went there wholly on the side of planning, and the judge said that this judgment, putting aside the temporary thing from the temporary, what's it called?
Injunction from before, had nothing to do with criminality. This was all to do with the planning permission. Now, this is where it gets, where we come in line. I'll come in line with Samara a little bit. Being when he gave down the reading, he said that there was concern that other areas would kick off in trouble if the ruling was to go through on the facts that had been presented to him. And because there was only 6 weeks to go before they had the whole court case, he put aside the injunction. Now, the thing that's really riled me, people have got to take this on board and calm down. The government lawyer, all right, the judge threw out the immigrants had more rights than the local people. The judge threw it out, didn't want to know about it. The lawyer didn't need to say that. They could have won that case completely on the planning. I think it was done deliberately. I think they're trying to stir the pot.
Chris, look, I agree with you there. I mean, there's this great article that's just come out by the Express. One of the judges who overturned the Epping Asylum Hotel ruling was a lefty Labour supporter. I mean, they found that he has genuinely been working. He's been connected to the Labour Party for a long time, obviously not currently working for them, but there is some very, very clear impartiality here. I mean, even in how he said the judgment is, the initial judgment was erroneous, it was seriously flawed. I mean, he's saying stuff like that about the initial judgment. It shows that he definitely put his own lens on this sort of thing, and
that's what judges do.
Yeah, but that's not
judges. The idea. Okay, we have to make sure we separate neutrality and impartiality. Judges are there to adjudicate on the facts and basic on the interpretation of the law. Just because they happen to have worked for one particular group or another does not mean that that is bias.
I don't think the facts were considered in this at all.
I actually think they were considered more in this than they were in the original one. I completely agree that original judgment was made way out of bounds, and this is half of the problem, is that what we're doing is we're politicizing the courts. We're doing it again, and it is so dangerous what we're doing now, because the courts have to be neutral, they have to be independent, and we're dragging them into political decisions again and again and again because Westminster won't make a decision. All of this should not have happened. None of it should have. It should never have been a case. It should never have gone to court at all, because people who we pay, by the way, to make decisions refused to do so. This is the bit we have to keep remembering. We can get angry at the courts all we like, but the people who made this happen, our politicians, our elected officials, abdicated responsibility yet again, and because they are cowards.
I get that you're very box-ticky about this, just like the government, who, is obviously, it's no secret, run by a bunch of lawyers. But
you can have right-wing lawyers as well, by the way.
Yeah, but the country actually did get to a breaking point where this even had to get to that stage with this whole thing. I mean, let's talk to Carl, who's got some thoughts on it. Carl, how are you?
Good evening, Samara. Good evening, please. Peter said something a few weeks ago. I think he was on MacIver or Jeremy, that this Keir Starmer is quite sinister and the government seems sinister. I just think the whole thing is sinister. To go against the people like this and those women and children and the fears that they have in the community, it just shows that the government's got no backbone to do the job that they should be doing, and that is protect the British people. We're stuck in a situation that we never asked for from previous governments and from this government, and yet our voices are still unheard. No matter how many peaceful protest marches we go on, it's still unheard, and this shows you that it's still unheard, even though it's the government, like Pete said, the government haven't shown the backbone to just deal with the situation. They should still be. I just don't understand why. It seems the whole thing's sinister. It's wrong on so many levels. The school's open in a week, and God help us if anything happens.
Yeah,
Pete, any response to that?
Don't get me wrong. The way I think most of the government is sinister is the way that it gaslights. I think that is the most perverse bit of how this government operates, is what you're seeing isn't actually happening. What you're feeling is wrong, and if you do feel that way, you're a bad person. I think that is the sinister aspect. What I will say, though, is we are in this situation because for the last 30 years, people would rather have watched Love Island than paid attention to what was happening. All of this was utterly predictable.
I think that's a big generalisation.
No, I don't think it is, because yet again, so much has fallen because we allowed standards to slip. We didn't listen to people that warned us we were running out of money. We didn't vote for people that were brave enough to get up and say, do you know what, maybe we should cut back. Maybe we can't.
Your beloved Tory government was in charge.
Don't get me wrong. All political parties, the entire establishment and the British public have culminated in this mess, which is a mess of our own making because we were not brave enough and grown up enough to make sensible choices. We would rather have been spoon-fed and let somebody else deal with it. We are living in what I call the era of consequence.
Well, look what happens when we try to make a difference and we try to change something.
Just because you shout the loudest doesn't mean you get to run the roost. That is not how a democracy works. That is how a teenager's mood board works. This is not a democracy. No, that is elections. Courts are not. They're not there to listen to protests. That's not a court's job. That has never been the British court's job. It's not the law, and it's not how the law works.
I just want to read. I want to read something out by Brendan O'Neill. He's just posted this online. He said, "Everyone needs to recognise how unprecedented and psychotic this is. The government is using the courts to force the people of Epping to live alongside hundreds of unvetted men from faraway regressive cultures. It is overriding the democratic wishes of the local people and compelling them by law to accept the radical transformation of their entire community. It is elevating the rights of illegal immigrants over the rights of the British. These criminal men matter more than you." That's what the officials are saying. This is a recipe for serious social instability. Someone in power needs to get common sense into them and get a grip real quick.
I think that is one of the most dangerous things you can actually say,
That's from Brendan O'Neill, and that's his thoughts on that situation. Just before we go to break, let's talk to Moz in Burnley. Moz, how are you?
Do you know what? I'm so annoyed because
Why is that?
Mark Graham went away yesterday. One of the judges on that court thing today was Keir Starmer's human rights pal, and that Irma, whoever he is, another human rights bloke.
Yeah. That's one way of putting it.
I cannot believe that them women and children have been put in risk today. I mean, I've got a granddaughter, 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Burnley.
Do you worry about her safety, Moz?
Of course I do.
Yeah, exactly. And do you worry about the future of the country?
Pardon?
Do you worry about the future of the country, the way it's going after today?
Honest to God, I'm a pensioner. I'm 68-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so exactly. So you've worked your entire life, and now you see a country that you don't even recognise. You paid into the system's giving you nothing, and now you're worried about your future generation. Great, that's where we are.
Yeah, because nobody paid attention. I hate to break it to you, but when you don't pay attention, bad things happen. The fundamental flaw of this country has always been we pay attention to the general elections, and in the next 5 years, it's somebody else's problem. Unfortunately, in those 5 years, precedents are set, policies are put in place, and this is what happens. You get mediocrity as politicians, and that's being very generous. I hate to break it to people, but a lot of this is because we looked the other way, we kicked the can down the road and said to somebody else to pick up the bill.
Well, let's not forget the alleged sexual assault that's at the heart of a lot of these protests that are going on, and why the community is at breaking point.
Yes, this is the point, is that is one issue. It is not the central issue, because that bit should never have happened. All this crime, all the sexual assaults are abhorrent, but they should never have happened, because we should never have been in this situation in the first place. We have to start trying to find solutions to the core problems, not trying to fix things on the periphery. That is why we keep failing on again and again and again.
That was a community finding a solution to a problem then getting kicked in the teeth for it.
It was a community that did
Pete,
that.
We've got to go to break. After the break, Peter Blexley with his thoughts on the Epping hell.
This is a fairly straightforward case. and every thinking lawyer I know expected this outcome. There's a couple of factors that you have to take into account. This was a planning law case. It wasn't a human rights case. It touches on human rights, but it was actually a planning law case. And Epping Council have, for the past 3 years, allowed this hotel, with planning permission, to house asylum seekers in the hotel. They haven't taken any enforcement action.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, we've got a big response. We've got John in Wellington saying Brendan O'Neill has got it spot on, Farage for Prime Minister. Dan in Kent says we need a referendum on the flag, Samara. Embarrassed of the flag, you need a good lesson on democracy. Never said I was embarrassed of the flag at all. And Alan in Liverpool says, I used to like Peter Barnes, not anymore.
No. It's because I end up being right most of the time, and if you think Nigel Farage has got it, if you answer to any of these problems, I can't help you anymore.
Well, at the heart of this has been crime. Someone who's been defending the country for a long time is Peter Blexley. Let's cross over to Peter. Peter, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, although I'm rather irritated, like that listener from Liverpool, by what Mr. Barnes has been able to say
Hi, Peter.
in the last few minutes.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, well, may I just tell Mr. Barnes that, you know what, it's not our fault. This is how life goes for millions and millions of people. You get up in the morning, you go to work, and you work very hard. Often you work so hard that you don't actually deserve the pay that you should get, but that's another story. When you get home, millions of people put their time into raising their children so that they turn out to be wonderful people who contribute to society and don't take from it. If, after all of that, and of course keeping your relationship going, you're lucky enough to have some time for a hobby, or maybe go for a pint or a glass with your mates or the girls, then you're very lucky if you can afford that. The mistakes of politicians are not our fault. We do not have the time to sit slavishly poring over newspapers, manifestos and the such like, trying to pick out who is the best candidate. We put our X in the box, and that, by and large, is it. This is the politicians' fault and not the fault of hard-working people who have got enough on their plate.
Sorry, Peter, but it's a responsibility of its citizens to involve themselves in the democracy. If you don't pay attention, decisions are made without you. And I'm not saying that this is all lying on the public, but a lot of the problems that we face structurally as a nation are because we kicked the can down the road. The migrant crisis should never have happened in the first place. So as getting all riled up about a court decision that has, that is nothing more than the government's excuse to continue kicking the can is rather ridiculous to me, because we didn't fix things when we had the opportunity. Everybody works hard, everybody's underpaid, and all of these problems stem because we didn't pay attention long enough. I hate to be that guy, but it has to be said.
Mr. Barnes, you are talking yet more utter drivel.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you, Peter, entirely.
I'll tell you why. I gave you your turn. You listen to me, please. For the last 30 years or more, well, since 97, basically, when Blair got elected, if any man or woman in the street raised any concern at work, in the pub, wheresoever they may be, about migration, in all likelihood, you would be overheard and overtly branded as being racist. That's why the working man and woman went nowhere near this subject until all of a sudden our communities started to change. We could not believe what was going on around us, and actually we've reached a tipping point, and now people are not ashamed to wear the flag, either the cross of St George. They're not ashamed to wave the Union Jack. They feel like they've got a voice, and for you to sit on your intellectual high perch saying it's all our fault is fundamentally insulting and plain wrong.
Well, with respect, Peter, Tony Blair went on to win 3 successive general elections with massive majorities.
Oh, God, you're defending Blair now.
No, I'm saying that if people with that outrage, they would not have perpetuated the problem.
Well,
but that's half of the issue, is that when people were given the choice to actually have a say as to who was elected, who they were electing, people looked the other way. A lot of people did put the X's in the box. A lot of people didn't. That is one of the big problems. So I completely agree with you, Peter. I hate this decision. I think it is abhorrent, but the decision should never have had to have been made. And we have to start getting to the core of the problem,
honestly.
rather than keep playing at the peripheries like we keep doing, getting outraged by everything and not fixing anything. The reason we keep kicking the can is because nobody has the backbone to fix a problem anymore.
Someone said, hear, Blexley. Karen has said that, so she's very happy with what Peter is saying. Always the voice of the people. And Len has said, put patrolled security fencing around every hotel housing illegals. This should reduce the pull factor and protect the public until deportation. What do you think about that plan? Peter, would you enforce that? Peter Blexley?
Well, on this whole topic, really, Nigel Farage now stands as a colossus in the immigration debate. End of story after his announcement this week. Of course, it's all very well having a plan. It's a very different thing, number one, getting elected, and number two, putting that plan into practice, particularly when you have such a politicised civil service that has got its tentacles so deep into the establishment of this country that it's going to take a very courageous man with a very large majority to get in there and extricate these people, to send them packing, so that we have a civil service that actually abides by the will of the democratically elected politicians and doesn't try to obstruct them at every single turn. It'll be a mammoth task, and we will just have to wait and see. The future, I'm afraid, is uncertain.
Yes, but I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think the government doesn't understand what they're doing right now, or the Home Office at least. When the people feel absolutely trounced and silenced by their own government, of course they're going to look for an option. And Farage has put one on the table this week. He's laid out what he wants to do. He said he wants to deport all these people, and he's actually come up with a plan. I mean, the Labour government's plan is to shut down all these migrant hotels, but that's not going very well, is it? I mean, it beggars belief.
And then, of course, they will parachute these people into houses of multiple occupancy or into other properties that suddenly become available for them to live in, which at the moment are not available for all those millions of people on social housing lists. And I'm talking about British-born people who want to get some social housing. We shall have to see this week. I've spoken to bin men. I've spoken to somebody who works with homeless people. I've spoken to someone in social services, and they're all talking to me about this migration problem. And they are all talking to me about abuses that they see, not only by people that come here on boats, but people that come here on visas and then overstay. And then miraculously, their partner and their children arrive in the UK. And then they're knocking at the door saying, we're homeless. And somebody from the homeless department says, well, actually, you have no recourse to public funds. The man disappears, and there, left in reception, is a woman with 2 kids. So who has to get involved? Children's Services. What happens? They get housed. What happens? The man miraculously reappears when they're housed. There are abuses everywhere by people that simply should not be in this country.
Just remember Hare Hills. Remember what that was all about. That was a very similar sort of, the Hare Hills riots that started because the community, so to speak, rose up against Child Protective Services going to take a child with a head injury away from his Roma family. That's what that was about. So you're really right there. I mean, just quickly, I want to get your thoughts on this front page of The Sun. balloonacy, balloon craft lessons being offered to asylum seekers. Actually, ones that are on their way out, ones that have had their decision being made. Apparently in Eritrea, they're going to want to know how to make a balloon animal. I mean, they've said, just because of the Sun's brilliant reporting, actually, that they're not going to do that anymore and they're going to reel this back. But why was this even happening in the first place, Peter? What are your thoughts on it?
Of course, it is just ridiculous and insulting and a deeply, deeply waste of public money. But there's a really important line here, and that is we must protect this kind of journalism. I know we've got citizen journalism. I know we live in the age of YouTube and the such like and social media, but mainstream media outlets like this need to be supported. If you can afford to buy that paper or pay to get there behind their paywall and read some of the other stuff that's not readily available, we must support this journalism. Otherwise, this kind of story would never have seen the light of day.
Yes.
And mighty, that company, like Serco, that have millions upon millions and millions of pounds of government contracts, need to be held to account. They are wasting money. It is utterly, utterly appalling, and well done to the Sun for exposing this.
100%. And the Sun, and especially Thomas Godfrey at the Sun, is doing a fantastic job. He also exposed the Deliveroo drivers' black market that was going on, which then forced the Home Office to conduct a bunch of raids. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, and we need to keep supporting this and revealing it, because otherwise it will just go on completely unchecked. And that's the country that we'll live in, and that's where our taxpayer dollars will go. Peter, thank you so much for joining me and being the angel on my shoulder, defending me against the other Peter in this studio. I really appreciate it.
It really is. It's the Peter of two halves, isn't it?
Thank you. There's no one like Peter Blexley. They don't make men like him anymore. Thank you. So we will basically go to ad break now, but I was just thinking, after the break, we've got a very special guest, someone who's very passionate about migration, but might not be a resident of the United Kingdom, bit like me. All right, let's go to break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Political Asylum here on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. It seems like there are less and less of those places these days in Britain. But I tell you one place that there is still free speech. That's X. That's owned by Elon Musk. And we're going to talk to the late, great father of him, who's had a massive political career. He's a very accomplished man. He's the man behind the man. Errol Musk, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much.
It's great to see you again.
Thank you. Yes, great to see you.
I feel like the last time we saw each other in London, you were there for the big sit-down interview in Talk Towers, and you came in your very glamorous white suit, and yeah, it was a fantastic day. But your son has been kind of on the attack of our sort of potential great leader here, or some people would say great leader, Nigel Farage. He's been attacking him on Twitter, saying that he's a weak leader. He's chimed into our Epping debate, and he says, as goes Epping, so goes all of England. He's the richest man on earth. He's commenting on the migrant hotels. That's how you know it's a story. What are your thoughts on the Epping Hotel situation?
Well, obviously it's terribly worrying. I don't think you have to be a genius to not come to the conclusion that Starmer and his gang are intent on crippling the British nation. I mean, what other possible, conclusion can you arrive at? There's no other possible conclusion. Starmer is intent on crippling Britain. And so far the protests are almost very peaceful and very gentle. But of course, we know that from history, we know that that's how these things start. At the moment, it's peaceful protests by very, sort of ordinary people, older people, but that's how they start. That's how it starts.
Yeah, you're completely right. You're completely right. It's interesting, actually, because obviously this gets everyone really politically engaged when horrible things like sexual assaults on, or alleged sexual assaults on little minors happen, and that's what kind of provoked the Bell Hotel protests. But what's interesting is I was listening to a podcast with another political leader who is the leader of Advance UK, and he was saying that Elon was the one who actually initially had the idea for that party, which a lot of people see as sort of the antithesis of Reform UK, but also very similar. Is that right? Was that Elon's idea to fund a political party within the UK?
Well, we would fund anything that made sense. I mean, it's not like, obviously, if something made sense.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm sorry to say that the weakness shown by UK's leaders is very obvious. I mean, there's no one that I look at and say, well, I really think this is the right sort of person to lead the country.
So you don't think that of Farage? I mean, he kind of talks a lot of rhetoric that I feel like you might agree with.
Well, I think Nigel Farage talks well. I think he would make a good wingman. I think he might be a good member of cabinet.
I don't know if he'd ever want to be a wingman, knowing him. I think he definitely wants to be front and centre.
Well, what I mean is, I don't see him now. I agree with Elon. I don't think he's, the sort of person you want to have, that's going to lead you through. This is not a Churchillian character, So, no, I would think somebody else. But then I look at the others that are there, and, with the exception of Ben Habib, I've listened to him talk, I don't see anyone there who seems to have, their sort of ducks in a row.
So you would say Ben Habib is kind of the future for Britain, in your mind?
Well, he's better. He's certainly, it sounds better to me. And then, of course, although, of course, people laugh at me, people with the gumption of Tommy Robinson, obviously, he has the gumption, he has the British spirit. I mean, that's very obvious to people on the outside. We see good old England there, the sort of take no prisoners kind of guy. But,
Yeah, I think it's interesting how perceptions vary, you know, from country to country. But I think you've had a very glittering political career. What would you do if you were in charge of this country?
Well, you know, first of all, I'd instantly put a stop to illegal immigrants entering the country. I mean, that's obvious. Then I would go around and do exactly what Trump is doing in the United States. This is another thing, of course. The British police seem to be working against the people of the UK. I find it very hard to understand why your police, they actually take the instructions that they do, because it doesn't make any sense. But I would, of course, use the police just the same as Trump is doing in the United States, and I'd have all these people deported. It's as simple as that. I mean,
Trump's had great success, hasn't he? I mean, deportations / crossings are down 96% under him, under his iron fist rule. I do agree with you. We do need to look towards America for some of our immigration policies, because at the moment, I mean, it's all just crumbling at the seams. Errol, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Can I add something?
The floor is yours.
You know, I went to speak at Oxford Union in May.
Yes.
And in order to do that, the topic was all whites must leave Africa. Well, that's another issue. But at any rate, it's ridiculous. It was a ridiculous topic.
I remember you argued, obviously, against that.
Well, you know, I didn't stand against it. I said if all the whites leave Africa, the blacks will starve. But apart from that, that's not the thing that what was I? I've lost my train of thought now.
No, that's okay. I do remember. I remember you going off to Oxford Union and...
Oh, yes, I remember now. What I wanted to say was that I had to apply for a British visa. It took me 3 weeks, and it cost me $1,100 or
oh my God,
1,000 euros for me with a British mother to come to talk at Oxford. I had to pay 1,000 euros to get a visa.
Goodness. Yeah, so you probably should have just jumped on a boat from France and just come over in a dinghy. You would have been much better off, Errol. I've really got to go because we've got to take a break, but such a pleasure to see you again, and I hope your health is all well and dandy after I last saw you. Thanks so much for joining us, Errol. That was Errol Musk, father of Elon. Your calls next, and also David Lammy. You won't want to know what he received in Kuwait because it's pretty shocking. That after this.
this is a fairly straightforward case, and every thinking lawyer I know expected this outcome. There's a couple of factors that you have to take into account. This was a planning law case. It wasn't a human rights case. It touches on human rights, but it was actually a planning law case. And Epping Council have, for the past 3 years, allowed this hotel, with planning permission, to house asylum seekers in the hotel. They haven't taken any enforcement action.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, you guys have taken the home of common sense and you've used it, because they've got so many calls and texts coming through. Dan from Kent have said that we need to talk more about the protests. They are planned for patriotism. Someone said Errol Musk is spot on, and someone else, Colette, has said, thank God for people like Peter Blexley. He speaks for so many. Let's cross over to Dave in Southend. Dave, hello. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Miss Gill. I'm going to be different
like
here.
That, Miss Gill.
So just let me finish. Peter Barnes, for once, is correct, because the people have taken their eye off the ball. And he is correct. When you mention that lowlife, scumbag Tony Blair, I seem to remember, as you've said, we carried on voting him back in time and time again, just like we did with Yvette Cooper, just like we did with all the cabinet that are there, most of them. They are all old school, low-life scumbags that live in that sewer called the Houses of Commons. Now, we are now sinking into an abyss, and we have always voted the same scum day after day after day. And we are now saying, what have we done? I'll tell you what we have done. We have finished our country for good. I don't believe that Farage is the answer. I will vote for him, but he isn't to be trusted like he did in 2019. He let us all down by doing a deal with another scumbag, and you know who that was, which was Johnson. All these scumbags who have ruined our country as leaders are now sitting very quietly and not saying a word.
Well, not a word from Starmer, Dave, that's for sure. No word from him. No, he's super happy to rush off to Washington with his disgusting little cold sore and defend Ukraine's borders. But when it comes to our borders, forget about it. No, not a word. Radio silence.
But yes, I agree. I agree on all of that. I mean, you can mention all the names of all the rats in that sewer.
It'll take too long.
My point is, he is correct on this point, that we have taken our eye off the ball. I'm older than you. I'm probably twice as old as you and more. That in the olden days, when COVID come along, we would never have locked down. We were men. Men were men. Now, men are not, I don't know what we are anymore, but our children, our women are being attacked. And it's down to the men to take this country back, because I fear there is not going to be a lot left of it after the next 4 years. So men out there, start finding your cojones and start doing what they're doing up in Dundee. It's down for us to patrol our streets ourselves and to protect our children, for God's sake.
I mean, yeah, Dave, patrol, I totally agree. I think, of course, be lawful, keep it respectful, do not go attacking others, you know, do not make, you don't know the immigration status of someone unless you obviously talk to them, ask them, and even then, obviously, don't do anything like that. But Dave, you do make a really good point that Britain does feel completely lawless at the moment. It feels completely unsafe. I don't walk outside my door without thinking twice. I mean, I've had the police at my place 3 times in the past month, and I don't live in the worst area of Britain. decision. So that says a lot. Dave, I couldn't agree with you more, and Dave agrees with you. So we've reached a love triangle here.
No, I find it interesting that for once I'm correct, but no, but I think this is my central point, is that I think that this decision is abhorrent. The hotel should be closed. None of these people should be here. But that outrage is a little late to the game. In all honesty.
Yeah, but it's now.
Yes, it is now. But now didn't need to happen if we'd have paid attention earlier on. This is my point.
This is now, Pete.
Yes, but this is my point, is that we continue to live in the era of our consequences because we didn't do the things that were necessary when we had the chance to stem this off. As I said, we kept voting for the same people and expecting a different result. That is the definition of insanity. And yet we did it again and again. David Cameron called himself the heir to Blair, and we gave him we gave the Tories 14 years. In what way is this anybody else's fault? The state of the nation is dependent upon its citizens, and the citizens would rather have sat at home and watched Love Island because not enough people paid attention, not enough people are voting. You change the system by turning up. You don't change the system by screaming at the radio or the television or writing on Twitter. That's not protesting.
Or apparently protesting now. So.
But that's the point, is that the protests shouldn't affect the court decision. What you should do is have the laws.
So there's no use in protesting, is that what you're saying?
Not really, because the protests are there to affect politicians who write the law, not the courts to adjudicate on the law. It is up to politicians to rewrite the law.
Labour wasn't happy with the decision. They wanted to overturn it. I feel like that's...
Yeah, of course they did, because they lost the decision. But what I'm saying is that the law itself needed changing, and the courts don't do that. Politicians do that, and they do that based on us turning up to vote for them in or vote them out.
Well, speaking of horrific government cronies, I did just want to drop this in here. David Lammy
something we'll agree on.
David Lammy, I can't even say that without wanting to throw up.
No.
David Lammy received a whopping £32,000 in gifts when he visited Kuwait last month. Obviously, just want to say those are all being held by the FCDO, so they're not in his pocket, but he was gifted a Chopard watch and pen set, a Cartier pen. He was gifted 18,000 grand worth of jewellery.
Some kind of chopping board.
Perfume.
Ultra expensive. It's a chopping board at the end of the day.
Yeah, he was gifted a ton of different things.
Yeah.
It looks like Lammy
There's a Sun headline.
Lammy is living very large on his foreign trips. That's not to say he obviously didn't keep those things, but we know that he loves a good expense.
Okay, because let's not forget about the one where he decided to take a taxi all the way down.
The 600 quid taxi. Let's also not forget about the £50,000 party that he just randomly
had. But yes, this seems to be an ongoing problem for the Labour Party. Is the what is it? There's nothing more dangerous with a socialist and an expenses account.
Yes, correct. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I know Kev's always on about that too. Michael in Belfast, welcome to the show. What did you want to say?
Oh, hi, Samara.
Hi.
First of all, your friend Dave, first time I've seen him, I was trying to think, who does he remind me of? And it's just struck me, Kevin Turvey. Long before your time, but Kevin Turvey. But what I would like to say...
Okay, Pete doesn't even know. This is...
I'm not that much older than you.
I couldn't... as soon as I realised, I thought that's the one, Kevin Turvey.
Right, but, Kevin Turvey.
It's a Rick Mayo character, but... So, and anyway, this
okay.
Oh, yeah.
The character in the Young Ones.
Yes, the Young Ones, yeah.
Right.
Not the Young Ones, no, not even the Young Ones. He was worse than the Young Ones. But what I would like to say about this ruling today is this judge has let the cat out of the bag. Basically what he said today is, I don't care about the previous ruling. If I uphold the previous ruling, then there's going to be chaos in England. And that means the rule of law, bye-bye rule of law. And it's like the grooming gangs in Rotherham. Shall we prosecute these child molesters and child abusers? Or shall we keep the peace? Shall we keep the peace and let these children suffer?
Oh, they want us to lie down and take it, Michael. That's what they want.
Franks. Pardon?
They want us to just take it. You're right. They don't want us to put up with it. They want us to put up with it.
Let the cat out of the bag. Even the judge said, Mr. Bean, whatever he is, he even said it himself.
He's genuinely called Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
He's genuinely called Mr. Bean.
Yeah, he even said it himself. What he said today was, if I uphold the previous ruling of... And how does that other judge feel? the judge that wasn't appointed by Stormer.
Oh, yes.
Stormer appointment. How does he feel? I would like to hear what he has to say about this guy saying, I don't care about the law, I just don't want chaos of conflict. Political appointment, political decision, and it's let the cat out of the bag, and God help us all. Good luck, Kevin Turvey.
I agree. There's champagne corks popping in Yvette Cooper's home right now.
I think they're rather the opposite. I think it'll be a kind of a one for the road situation, because I think the one cat that was let out of the bag is actually the government doesn't have any other ideas. This is the reason the court decision was actually made, is because there is no other way. There's no option presented to the courts right now. And you want to talk about upholding the law? This is upholding the law, because it is about the planning situation, not about everything else. This is what I'm saying, is that this court decision is not about the sexual crimes. It's not about all of that stuff. It is about this particular decision. We're extrapolating it into other areas to which it should not be.
Yes, because it sets a precedent.
Yeah, but
it does set a precedent.
Only in terms of politics, not in terms of the law. This is the difference, and it is so important. And people might go on to call me a Tory boy and all the rest of it, or call me a wet or whatever, but I'm trying to explain to people what is really important here, is that this decision is about a planning decision, and the reason it was made was because the government does not have any other options available to it that it is willing to make to get rid of the people that are in these hotels. That is why he was saying that, you know, of the dangers and the kind of responsibilities that the court has to maintaining the public order. Because the government can't, because what would happen, as we have seen time and time again in the last couple of days, is say that so many councils are going to go to the councils.
Exact wording: the rights of the asylum seekers trump local Epping residents. That's what the Home Office argued.
Yes, but then that was then thrown out by the judge itself. That was not the ruling. That was a decision made by the government, and that's not down to the courts. That's not the court that said that. That is a government lawyer. So get angry at the government lawyer, not the court.
The
that's
government lawyer, otherwise known as a mouthpiece for the government.
Yes, exactly. Not the court. So it's not the court that said that, it is the government that said that.
Yeah, we're not upset. We're really upset with
everybody seems to be really angry at the government decision, the court decision. That's not the same thing.
Don't go anywhere. After the break, Robert Bates, and we're going to cross over to Epping live. It's going to be wild. We're going to actually see what's going on the ground there, but we're also going to talk to the expert of all experts from the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. He's going to fill us in on what this actually means going forward. And Kinsey Schofield, for the Royals, a little bit of reprieve. Don't go anywhere. Your calls 0344 499 1000. Peter Barnes sticks with me.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the Political Asylum. We are in hour 2. It is 8 o'clock here at Talk Towers, and we are getting into it. It is the night, it is the evening of discontent over here. People are not happy. I've got a absolutely rammed switchboard. I've got so many texts coming in. The people have spoken, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think Labour is in a lot of trouble after this ruling. It's looking very dark and dim, but at least I've got the person that I want to talk to about this. He knows it all, and he's been fighting the good fight for a very long time. Robert Bates from the Centre of Migration Control, thank you for joining me.
Evening, Samara. How are you doing?
Yes, good, thank you. This is madness, honestly. Where to start? I mean, I just want to know your perspective on what has happened today.
Well, what I think has happened is Labour have won a Pyrrhic victory here. They might well feel like they've stemmed off some of the chaos that would inevitably ensue given the state of our asylum system if they started to have to relocate individuals out of hotels. But I think, as your switchboard seems to be suggesting, the public outrage that is inevitably going to start to unfurl over the coming days as a result of this ruling is really something that's going to damage them in the long term. You can already see the narratives taking shape. We are literally in a position where it feels that the Home Office is deliberately opposing the British public and putting the rights, the human rights of asylum seekers, illegal migrants, above the safety and well-being of the British public. And that is something that I don't think any government could really hope to survive for long term if that narrative continues. And the problem Labour have now is they don't really have the ability to provide alternative solutions to using hotels. We've seen the use of hotels increase by 8%. And when you look at actually the other places that they might be using, the kind of HMOs and things like that, they're really struggling to actually build up that stock. So I think this is going to be a real tension that the Labour Party is going to have to endure for a long period now, especially as we see 50-odd thousand will likely come across this year as well. So the asylum system's building and Labour's really running out of road on this.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And I think it's hilarious how Labour's stance on this is, yes, by the end of our tenure, we'll get everyone out of the asylum hotels. That's what we want to do. I mean, this looks completely antithetical to what they're saying. So who do we trust here? I mean, it's very difficult when we've got veterans out on our streets. I mean, I was just watching an interview today where there was a veteran who had been protesting outside the Bell Hotel just saying, it's two-tier Britain. I feel like a second-class citizen in my own country. And then, of course, we've got the danger element to it. People feel completely unsafe. I mean, all these protests were born out of a horrible, horrible incident that obviously is an open case and we can't really talk about. But this comes from somewhere. This isn't just sort of anti-immigration rhetoric or whatever anyone wants to call it. I mean, it's quite interesting. Do you think Yvette Cooper is sort of toasting the champagne, or do you think that they're not going to recover well from this sort of thing?
No, I think this will start a doom loop, hopefully. And, you know, the sentiment that we've seen in Essex, I think will only increase across the country as the chaos of the Channel and the ridiculousness of our asylum system continues for the next couple of years. In the last 12 months since Labour took power, 75% of local authorities have seen an increase in the number of illegal migrants being housed in their area, whether that is in hotels or houses of multiple occupancy. So people are seeing the changes that are coming as a result of the catastrophe of the Channel. People are seeing that sense of unease. They're seeing sort of young girls not being told they shouldn't walk home late at night. The cases that you referenced, there are dozens now across the country of criminality or alleged criminality taking place, and the general sense of injustice as well. That we've got a £5 billion effective black hole here that is really, we're throwing money into it and we're getting nothing in return, and the system seems to be getting worse as a result of it. And that's before we obviously then getting into things like fast track GP appointments, the whole raft of treaties that these people get given as well. So I really think there's an absolute inferno burning here across the country. People are rightly livid with what's happened, and the Labour Party, through their sheer incompetence, are actually pouring more gasoline on this situation because they just don't have an answer, and they've ended up in this ridiculous position where they are now literally putting themselves at loggerheads with the British public.
You're completely right. I read a story this week that said that they're giving £75 incentives to any asylum claims for basically workers to make a decision on them, which obviously is going to look great for them because it's like, oh, I've gotten rid of the backlog, but at what cost? I mean, it's essentially almost bribery for these workers. I want to bring in Pete Barnes, who is a political strategist. We've been fighting all night, Robert.
Just a little.
Seriously, he's got.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
He vehemently disagrees with both of us on this whole thing. So, Pete, what did you want to say to both of us? I know you've been raring to go.
I'm making a rule not to disagree with Robert when it comes to immigration and migration issues.
Don't you dare.
He is the guru on this stuff. He's bang on. But and I think there's a really important point that you made in this, is that you mentioned that 75% of councils saw an increase in the number of illegal migrants. That's since Labour came to power. That means this was happening long before that. And this has been my point on this issue for some time, particularly today. And it's because we could have curbed this problem off a long time ago and made a decision and stopped all this from happening. But because we've got cowards for politicians, the public weren't paying attention really, really early on, and we just kicked the can and kicked the can and kicked the can. We've run out of road to kick the can. That's what we've got to. This is my point, is that we could get really angry about this decision, but this decision was an inevitability from a country that has not made a decision in about 40 years on this issue. We talk about the lunacy of our immigration system because nobody bothered to fix the thing. We never forced our politicians to actually answer questions, to come up with better systems. We just presumed somebody else would do it. That is my point. As I keep saying, this decision was abhorrent, but it's not about the sex crimes. It's not about any of this stuff. The point of the case was on planning. In what sensible Western democracy does our entire immigration policy come down to a court case about planning regulation?
Because
How is that a
people
sensible
don't want
thing?
to wait until 2029 in order to have a stop and an end to this.
But
that's what Labour's telling us.
Yes, but then you have to realise that this one decision was not going to put everybody on a plane and send them back. This operation.
Robert, anything to say to this?
No, well, I think Peter does make a good point in that we are locked in two guardrails. One a bit longer term, which is the kind of asylum architecture that we haven't really challenged since the post-war consensus, and there's a need to recognise that we're in a completely different world to what we were in the 50s. The idea that the sort of refugee convention and the ECHR are still perfectly fine to use in this day and age, from when they were written in a time before mobile phones were sort of prolific and mass transportation. But then there's also the shorter term sort of guardrails that we did get locked into by the Conservative Party, where they did take the decision to go down the dispersal accommodation route writ large. They issued contracts that are now escalating to the point of 15 billion, 10-year contracts that really sort of said, well, this is the sticking plaster that we intend to use. And unfortunately, we are in a situation where we have effectively just been sort of peddling against the stream as a result of that. We have really not had a big meta conversation about what needs to happen. That was something that, for all the faults of the press conference, the Reform Party were trying to set out earlier today in terms of let's have a conversation about the ECHR, let's have a conversation about the Refugee Convention and other accompanying international obligations. And, I think that is where the political winds is shifting. But as we are stuck in the legal apparatus that is now outdated, we are unfortunately going to have to go along with situations. I would, of course, note that the judge, apparently was a Labour treasurer of solicitors or something like that as well. But
yes, he was quite connected to the Labour Party. But what judge isn't these days? So, yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, as an Australian, especially when the initial ruling came out, it did actually feel like a bit of a band-aid over a bullet hole, because the whole system does need overhaul. And I think that, because of the inaction of the government, this is what people wanted. People have been denied it, and I think that's where the tragedy lies here, and that's why people are so frustrated, because they did want something to just get done. Some migrants should just be moved out of their town to stop, terrorising the women and children that live near the Bell Hotel in Epping, and those people will stay there because of today's decision, and that's heartbreaking for those who just don't feel safe to leave their homes and don't feel safe at night walking around the streets. So that's the reality. That's where the rubber hits the road there. But I agree with you. I mean, as I said, Australians got it right. They said, nope, you're coming here and you're not staying and you'll be processed on an offshore location. And that's how we stopped the migrant crisis in 1 week. So I do agree with you, Robert. I think that, yeah, and Pete.
Oh, somebody recalled that.
But, you know, give the people what they want. Let's bring in Tracy to talk to both of you guys. Tracy, what did you have to say? Welcome to the show, Tracy in Leeds.
Yeah, hi guys. How are you all?
Good, thank you.
Hi, Tracy.
Right, okay. Right, it's a quick one really, and it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Right? I think, you know, these people, have entered our country illegally, okay? Yeah, we've established that. They're illegal immigrants, okay? Therefore, my question is why can we not build detention centres specifically for these people? Because I understand, and probably most of the country understand, and it's a bit of pill to swallow, but yeah, we have got some legislation where we have to take in these people, okay? It's questionable about how many we need to take, but we need to take them, right? They're entering our country illegally, and also they're being trapped like superstars, yeah? 4- or 5-star hotels.
Yeah.
Everything is free.
Balloon
Even
lessons,
snacks.
Tracy, as the Sun told us today.
Yeah, three meals a day, and even snacks, free snacks to your room whenever you want them. This is what is outraging people. These people have entered this country illegally without being dumped in communities, as an insult to injury. These people need to be treated exactly what they are. They're illegal.
Robert, any response to that? I mean, why can't we use detention centres? I guess that falls under some legislation, I'm sure.
Well, I agree with that completely.
Nightingale, didn't we? We built Nightingale hospitals.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there is
a
lack of political will. At the moment, we have woeful detention facility infrastructure. We only have about 2,000 beds when you think about the number of people that have come over. But there was a choice that could have been taken in 2018 when this thing really started to explode. And we could have thought, look, this is probably going to have to cost us billions of pounds. Do we want to just fritter that away on hotels for which we get absolutely nothing? Or do we actually want to invest that money in detention facilities that would allow us to actually make sure these people aren't dispersed around the country? They aren't put next to primary schools. They're not, bothering people in their own community.
Well, clearly, that is the problem, isn't it? That is what the concern is. The people that live in Epping, and obviously, no doubt, other cities and boroughs across the country, okay?
Yeah, I mean, even Germany, kind of put them in a specific area whereby they couldn't leave. It's a very...
Absolutely.
Yeah, so...
You are right when you talk about the Nightingale Hospital, sites across the country. It is something that is eminently feasible if you have the political will to actually go about doing it, Tracy.
Absolutely. Let's quickly... Tracy, thank you so much for your call. I want to try and fit everyone in, and while we've got an expert here, I'll take one more call with Robert. Miranda in Cumbria, what did you have to say?
I was just really wondering who chose the judges today? Because one of the judges, quite clearly, who made the decision, had spent 10 years in the Fabian Society, and he spent time within the Labour Party. Now, it looks to me like it's very suspect, really, isn't it? And it's not really fair. It really isn't very fair. I know a gentleman who is a judge, he was an immigration judge, and he'd been part of the Labour Party as well. And I asked him, who's a friend of the family, and I asked him, have you ever sent anybody back? And he said no. They didn't send anybody back at all. So for me, I think it's highly suspect who they chose today to make that decision. And to overrule a judge's decision, that is the law. It was a planning decision. They broke the planning rules, and essentially that judge who made the decision about the Epping Hotel, that ruling he made should have been kept as it was. I understand why they brought in another judge who obviously 10 years in the Fabian Society, not good. That was all I wanted to say, really.
I can say I'll pick up on that one because I don't really think it's about the judge that's the problem here. It's the law allowed that to happen. You know, this is what you can have a judge who's been a member of the Labour Party for 20 odd years. The precedents are still there. The legislation is still there for that judge to do what he's done. This is my point: is that this is a structural problem that has been lingering on for some time, and we could have fixed so much of this. All these treaties we could have got rid of. Most people probably hadn't even heard of the ECHR probably till about 2 years ago, and it's been part of our legal precedent for 50 odd years. This is what I'm saying, is that, you know, we reformed the Refugee Convention. We could have done so much, and yet we didn't, because we didn't care about it, or we didn't pay attention to it. And now things have spiraled and got so out of control that we're starting to blame judges for the decisions that the legislation has allowed them to make. You know,
Robert, what do you think of the politicization of the judicial system? Or that's, I guess, what people are accusing this decision of.
Well, it does feel that way, and you know, his track record does suggest he's somewhat of an activist. But I think that is a broader problem for the judiciary, again, probably because of decisions that were taken in the Blair era primarily. I think where we're probably heading with this is some high drama at the Supreme Court, and I think that, you know, the benefit of that, although it doesn't feel like a benefit at the moment, is that, you know, this conversation, the concerns of the British public continue to get to be aired as a result of this, because, you know, all journalists love a big day out outside the Supreme Court and the cameras, the snappers and everything like that. So I think a judgment like that will really sort of help to keep this conversation going on. The immigration tribunals that you previously called Miranda, I believe she was called, referenced, are a completely different beast. They are effectively sort of retirement homes for left-wing lawyers that have just spent a career sort of on marches and defending the rights of illegal migrants. So they're an abomination. They're a constitutional abomination. It was only really introduced in the late 90s, and you know, frankly, the quicker they're done away with completely, the better. But when it comes to the overall sort of politicization, I do think people are starting to sense that perhaps there is an element of that in the broader judiciary as well. But again, that's because of decisions that were taken a fair while back now.
Of course, and obviously in the High Court, Justice Eyre, who made the initial ruling, did not consult the Home Office. And then we had Justice Bean, who's being obviously focused on, he did consult the Home Office. So that is the key difference there between the initial ruling and then the appeal. So that's kind of also gives a bit of an explanation as to why this conclusion has been come to. Thank you so much for your call, Miranda, and thank you so much, Robert, for bringing your time. Continue to fight the good fight. I know you will. Thank you for joining us on this Friday evening. That's Robert Bates from the Centre for Migration Control. He's the director there.
The guru.
The guru. Honestly, he is to be always listened to, because he knows everything about everything.
It's one of the best policy groups out there that are actually covering this stuff with that level of detail.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that they put out, I immediately read.
No, totally.
Everything.
I mean, their findings are so interesting and so succinct. They really dig into the data. I like how they hold
people to account as well. When somebody says something and it's wrong, they will instantly come out.
I get those press releases too.
I do,
yeah. No, I get the press releases
only to see if my name's on it.
Yeah, I do sometimes shudder a little bit when I'm ready to click on the email. I'm like, oh, did I say something wrong? Did my show do something? We will come to you after the break with Kinsey Schofield. We're going to go live from Hollywood. We're going to have a bit of reprieve from all this, but we're going to have so much time for your calls at the end of the show, and we're going to cross over live to Epping, right outside the Bell Hotel. It's going to be really interesting. We're going to get the mood there. So stay tuned and don't miss a minute of it. Stick where you are.
who effectively told us they are scared for their children's safety in the area, and they are worried about what the next steps are and what's going to happen. Obviously, we don't quite know the ramifications of today's hearing yet. We get to see how it progresses and what that appeal might mean for the future. But I mean, the fact the government is allowed to appeal, that could have, if that wasn't the case, then it would effectively tear apart the whole hotel system and leave the whole asylum hotel system in tatters.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I don't want to waste any time with this one. Let's go straight over to Epping, where it's all happening. We're outside the Bell Hotel. We've got a camera there, and we're going to talk to Jay. Jay, how are you? He's a resident over in Epping, and he's protesting. I can see him out there. Jay, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, very well, thank you. It's really fun to get together. It's not too bad tonight. We've had a few people turn up and show support after what has obviously been a very...
Nope. No, we still got you there?
No.
Oh, we're losing him.
No,
Jay, no. Jay, oh, gosh, no. Well, let's go to Kevin in Southampton. Kevin, how are you? Welcome to Talk.
Hi, Samara. Great show. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Peter, is he there with you still?
Yes, I am here.
I'd just like to remind you, just remind you that Mr. Farage mentioned about the migrant crisis about at least 8 years ago.
Yes.
And he was blasted down as a racist. He was this, he was... I remember him, Bob...
Yeah, I would remind you also that Nigel Farage about 6 months ago said mass deportations was not practical. He said that the hotels were a necessity. Operation Restoring Justice, or as otherwise known as Operation Massive U-Turn. But all we saw from Nigel Farage and Reform this week is yet again they have no consistency in policy.
Yeah, what about the Tories?
Oh, don't get me wrong, they're just as terrible.
The Tories?
Oh, don't get me wrong, they're just as terrible.
We've got Robert Jenrick coming out against his own policies today.
I mean...
Kemi Badenoch acting as if they had nothing to do with this
I think that's
we're
utterly
in.
Ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. But my point is...
So why hold Farage to a two-tier system yourself?
I don't hold it. I hold everybody with the same level of contempt. I'm an equal opportunity hater. That's my thing.
Kevin, what did you want to say to that, just quickly?
Well...
Do you think Farage is U-turning?
You're going to U-turn a little bit here and there, but the main premise is he will deport people. That is the big difference.
But when? When? What's the timeline? Because if you think that all of what he's just announced is going to be available on day one, it's not. He had there's no plan there, realistically. None.
The man is not in power yet. So let the man get in power.
Well, we tried that with Keir Starmer, though. And now look what happened.
Two very different beasts.
Not really. Not really.
We've had the Tories, we've had Labour. I think it's a bit to say about the British people who haven't voted for it. The last two major subjects we've had in this country has been COVID and the Brexit. Nothing else ever got a look in. Migration, if you mention migration, you were racist, you were this, you're far right, blah, 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 right? So that took up so much time. Then we had to fight out of COVID about Boris eating cake and all the left getting all... And look what they're doing now. It's absolutely crazy, right? I look out beside my window, okay, every single day. Mysteriously, about 8 months ago, the residents were all gone. The council come in, new windows are all put in, new fences are all put in. I think, what's going on here, right? And it's been, I've taken a picture of it. I'm waiting for the day.
It's incredible.
When someone and I've got a picture of it, right, for the day that someone turns up here. And there's probably about 10 to 12 flats. I don't live in the best area, okay? And I know the people around. It will be a nightmare. It will be a nightmare.
Kevin, look, I think you're right. I think you're completely right. I appreciate you coming on the show. Do call again. We're going to cross over to Epping, so I'm going to have to go from you. But if you do want to put a call in, I do have a RAM switchboard, but I'm sure there might be a couple of lines available. 0344 499 1000. Let's get back to Epping. Jay, you're protesting over there. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. There's a bit of technicals, obviously. But yeah, like I say, we're all up here today. It's an
You can see some great Union Jacks in the background.
Yeah, loads of flags, loads of good atmosphere, despite,
Fantastic.
you know, the obvious disappointment of what happened earlier on in the courts. But people are still in very good spirits, and people are still very, very determined to put up a fight in the right way to make sure our residents of Epping and the local area maintain safety for our women and kids and girls. So
well,
that's not going to
that's
stop.
completely right. Exactly. It's all about safety. And I see a very peaceful protest going on there in the background. Yeah. Why are you so angry, Jay? I mean, I know that obviously it's peaceful there, but there's obviously anger boiling below the surface. Where is the anger coming from?
Well, the anger is coming from a pent-up feeling of being ignored over, you know, decades now. We've had so many different votes and opportunities to try and get things changed, and nobody's listened to us at all. We've voted probably 5, 6, 7 times now to get change and to sort of stop the massive, it's very noisy now.
No, that's all right. We've still got you.
Very, very noisy. But, you know, to get the change that the people voted for, and, you know, whether Brexit or voting for the Tories or voting for even Labour in a funny way, but no one...
It was a protest vote for a lot of people.
Yeah, maybe. Not for me, but for a lot of people possibly. But ultimately, no one's listened to us. And then 3 or 4 years ago, they put people in here that we didn't know who they were. And we still don't know who they are. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know if there's an agenda. They're just undocumented.
They're completely unvetted, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that anywhere. You can't go for an airport. You can't go anywhere.
Nope.
If we tried to do that to Spain or go to Dubai or whatever, you'd be undergun. You know what I mean? You'd be in big trouble. So why
Jay,
are we letting them
by the way, just quickly, I'm sure you're an upstanding citizen. I'm sure you pay your taxes. I'm sure you pay some sort of rent or mortgage. I'm sure you have to pay for your own meals. How does it feel? How does it feel that just across the road from you, I mean, someone is living there pretty much off your dime, that you wake up in the morning to pay your taxes to fund?
It's just totally and utterly unfair. You know, there's guys around here that you see locally now and again, not too many, but you do see them that are in a terrible way, homeless on the streets. There's a queue as long as your arm, both arms and both legs for young families trying to get properties here. This area is quite an affluent area, so, you know, properties are really, really difficult to get anyway. But if there's going to be anything built here, we want them to be for the people that have been in the area, paying taxes, and have put their all into the country. That's all we want. We want, you know, first of all, safety, security, and then we want what's fair. And at the moment, we're getting none of that, and we are absolutely living. So that's how we all feel. And this fight will continue. Mark my words, we will not stop. And it won't just happen here, it'll happen up and down the country.
Yeah.
We've got...
Jay, I hear you. You've essentially been kicked in the teeth by the Home Office today. If you just had one thing to say to Yvette Cooper, what would it be?
One.
I love it, Jay. Jay, nothing at all. Honestly, that explains it. There you go, Labour. That's how you're making your people feel, the British people. Let's go to Michael in North Wales. He's got some interesting thoughts on this topic. Michael, what did you want to say? Welcome to Talk.
Yes, good evening. I'm talking to Peter, actually.
That's the man everyone wants to have a bonding with tonight.
If you go back a couple of weeks, I did mention Thomas Sewell, the American academic, getting on, who I've read a lot, and I'm a history buff. And he was absolutely 100% right, and you're 100% right. We've created this problem in the past by voting for people that without thinking about it. If you think about European history, just Europe, in a sense, by and large, the people that are closest to it, that we get on with most of the time are Northern Europeans, because we share the same genetic thing, we share the same Christian values and things like that. We share that way. The further south that you go, and getting into North Africa and all that, the further you go away. But people who are living a different life, the basic thing in life is we like to live amongst people who are like ourselves. That's just human nature. That's just the way that it is, you know. And you look at America, I'll go off at the thing a little bit. If you look at America, America is an immigrant country. Even the Indians originally probably came from Russia that way to Alaska. America allowed people to come in, as long as you didn't break state rules or federal laws, just get on with it, mate. You know, just get on with it and live your life. Don't make excuses. Just live your life and do the best for yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Michael, but I think you make a really good point here. I'll be really quick, because what this entire crisis has really revealed is the fact that the people who believe in the kind of universal human rights idea are rather ignoring the fact that culture exists, that different values and different communities have put preferences on different things. They believe that everybody is exactly the same. Basic common sense tells you that's just not true. So when you import people into the UK that don't have the same values, that don't put the same preferences and same importance on the things that we do, they're not going to get on with each other. They are going to continually clash. And this idea that you could just have this universal idea is ridiculous.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, because we're going to have to go back to Epping, where we are joined by a bit of a local celebrity there now. But it's been a tough, probably, day for you. Jamie MacIver, you were in the studio last week. We were kind of celebrating what's been going on. How are you feeling today? He's a Reform UK councillor for Epping Forest. Jamie?
Good evening. Good evening to you. Well, yes, a week ago, we thought this nightmare could almost be over. And I think the sheer incompetence of this awful government, also, I'm afraid, assisted by what appears to be some, let's just say there's some serious answers to be had from the council over the handling of this hotel, not just in recent months, but actually in its history. And today I'm gutted. I'll be honest with you, I'm gutted for the mums and the girls of Epping in particular, who next week were hoping they could walk to school without worrying about the behaviour of these unvetted men. But also I'm gutted for the country, because tonight we saw the Labour Party and the Labour government put the ECHR as a weapon, as a lawfare weapon against the British people and the people of Epping. Their right to live peacefully and safely in a community has been put second tier to the safety of people that enter the country illegally. And Sir Winston Churchill was the Member of Parliament for Epping, and I think when he helped establish the European Convention of Human Rights, it would never be with the purpose to go against his own constituents, which is what has happened today.
Jamie, those are really, really strong words, and I think you're echoing what a lot of people in Epping are feeling today. What would Reform UK's message be tonight to the people of Epping? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, as you say, are not feeling safe. They're feeling like they've had their rights stripped away in some sort of form. They feel like their protest isn't valid anymore. Will you continue the fight?
Firstly, the message from Reform UK tonight is happy birthday to my cousin Charlie, who I should be with right now.
Oh my gosh, happy birthday, Charlie.
He's watching this. Happy birthday, gorgeous Charlie. But more
happy
to the
birthday
point,
from Talk.
Reform UK, we announced this week what our plan will be and our policy for illegal immigration. We will arrest, detain and deport people that enter this country illegally. There will be no need for hotels like this. We will have detention centres, and we will have 5 flights a day. And I tell you something, we've even gone as far to say that we will have a spare aircraft by the RAF. So should any of those charter flights go tech, there will absolutely be no disruption to our deportation policy. We will leave the ECHR. Reform UK is the last hope this country has.
Jamie MacIver, he is a rising star of Reform UK. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Jamie over in Epping with his people, defending their right to protest over there. It's great to see a lot of Union Jacks. It's great to see peaceful protest, people out there voicing their opinions, even if the Labour government doesn't want to hear them. After the break, we are going to take more of your calls because we've got a lot to get through tonight. I'm going to look at some messages as well. Pete Barnes is still with me. Sit where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Matt, for counting me into that.
Yeah.
I've got some breaking news, actually. Angela Rayner faces ethics investigation over tax dodge. We're getting some more information on that, but essentially the Deputy Prime Minister has admitted to taking her name off deeds to a family home in a move that saved her £40,000 off her stamp duty. Yep, that's our second in charge, people. Someone who will move and shake when it basically is appealing to her and when it helps her. But no, if you dodge just £1 of tax, oh, they'll come after you. Or if you try and buy your own first home in this economy, good luck, because under Labour government, that doesn't even seem like a possibility. I mean, what's your reaction to this, Pete?
Well, one, this doesn't surprise me because Angela Rayner is as dirty as the rest of them, and she's always held up as this paragon of like, oh, she's from a working class community, our Ange done good kind of narrative. She's
a token
rotten
for the Labour
She's
Party.
rotten to the core, and it's about time this woman was actually held accountable for most of what she does, because she is a hypocrite of the highest order. She gets in the middle of Parliament and she calls everybody tax dodgers and all the rest of it. She's just as guilty of it as everybody else. The thing is, though, Angela Rayner is quite smart in this, because from what I understand, what she's done isn't illegal. It's one of these things that you can do. It's evasion versus... Yes. So this is the big thing. But with the Labour Party, they keep towing the line between legal and illegal so well, where they get to say, well, we followed the rules. The problem, yet again, is we're going to have an optics problem. So you throw in the Lord Alley stuff, you throw in David Lammy's, £32,000, you throw in the housing minister who had to resign for bending the rules. You've got Tahir Ali, who's also under investigation. You've got Perrin Moon, who's an MP, who's also under investigation for this stuff. They are rotten to the core. And Keir Starmer said that on his watch, none of this would happen. Yet again, another lie.
Absolutely. I mean, Angela Rayner, so many people had questions this week just over how she could afford that £800,000 seaside flat miraculously.
Yeah,
Her
800,000, a third home, but yet, you know, she's the working class girl done good. No.
I mean, her salary is £159,000 a year, which, yes, is a lot of money, but after tax and everything like that, it does beg the question, how are you doing I'm not making any accusations here, but, you know, people like Nancy Pelosi in the US, they love to game the system. A lot of politicians do come out of politics much richer than when they started. Of course, not making any accusations towards Angela there, but I think she's in a lot of deep trouble over this, and she's very lucky that the Epping Hotel story dropped today and has pretty much covered it.
I have to admit she's very lucky on that, because let's not forget there was a question over the second house that she bought as well. Did you remember rightly? So she has a pattern here, and the most dangerous things in politics from an optics point of view is a pattern of behaviour. Whether you've done the right thing or the wrong thing in terms of the law, that becomes rather irrelevant, and it is looking likely that Keir Starmer is going to have to drop the Deputy Prime Minister. Now, she might still remain Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
What are you talking about? She wants to be the next PM.
Well,
she's sizing him up for the job.
Oh, good Lord, help us all. I might, you know, I think I might emigrate, you know. Because, no, in all seriousness, because the woman is the definition of incompetent, but also she is being held up and being lifted up and protected by a media class that is consistently saying, but she's from a working class community.
She's their think of anyone else on the front bench that's working class. She's their little token that they like to wheel out when they want to seem like the actual Labour Party.
Yes, exactly.
She gets a little, vape on the beach, and she tries to be so real.
Do you remember that video of her partying in Ibiza?
Oh yeah, I do. Actually,
that
which
was done
then
on
was
expenses.
another expense scandal.
Another
she expensed that as well.
Well, like we said earlier, there's nothing more dangerous than a socialist with an expense account. And as George Orwell said, some of us are equal, but others are more equal than everybody else. And I think we're seeing that yet again with the Labour Party. This is a deep-rooted problem that they all just seem to think that they are above it. And because they're following the law, it doesn't matter. Well, I hate to break it to you, the public view this in a very different way. The Labour Party always believe that they're somehow viewed different by the public. They aren't.
Well, I'm not having another two-tier situation here, so I do hope that she does get investigated about this, because, I don't know, something seems a little bit fishy here.
It smells off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, especially with Angela at the helm of things. I cannot believe sometimes that she's the second most powerful person in this country, but anyway, that's where we are.
The definition of failing upwards.
Louise in Kent, welcome to talk. What did you want to say to me and Peter?
Don't forget, with Angela Rayner as well, there was all that scandal over selling her council house and then changing the law for everybody else. With all that went on. So there was that. Now, there's a couple of things I want to say to your guest. Is it Peter?
Yes.
Because what I'm not understanding at all. Right, you're saying that, yes, this was planning with Epping. I get that, and they shouldn't have turned it into an immigration thing. But the government did that as well, because they then said immigrants trump the rights of the people of Epping. They also said that actually the chap who's alleged this crime, that doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter about people in Epping with that as well. So there's that, which maybe he could explain that. But the other thing I want to say is, when Peter was on and you were saying about people have a duty to look at, understand, things before people come in, so we know how to vote for. I do all that. Yeah, I would never vote for it anyway. But what do you do when people vote someone in on the back of manifestos and then they don't do anything that's ever in the manifesto? They do exactly the opposite, and they do things which they never mentioned because they knew they wouldn't get in if they mentioned them.
Well, this is one of the...
You can't do anything about that.
No, you can, but it involves a lot of people doing it. One of the big problems we have is a decreased turnout. Because people aren't turning out to vote, it is allowing incompetence to grow. This is my point, is that whilst you may be one of the great people that does actually pay attention, I'm sure everybody watching this show are these people, but we're not the majority. I hate to break it to you. And
I know that.
And that is the big danger, is that because people are switching off or switching the channel, the problem is it is allowing incompetence to grow. So politicians feel that they are enabled to just do whatever they want. What we have to stop doing is paying attention, hyper-focusing when there's a general election, and then for the next 5 years not doing that. So actually, when a politician gets up there and does something that is against the manifesto, ago. You start writing to them. You start demanding better. It sounds ridiculous, but if like 1,000 people start writing a letter and you let, you get the media involved, you get a narrative starting to build, you will be surprised how quickly
but
and people
used to have
change.
Trust in its government.
Yes.
I do think that I don't think this has just been.
But that was when
of...
we had over 80% turnouts. We now average below roughly about 65%. That is my point: is that people trusted it because it was held to account. It was held to a standard.
Yes, but people also do assume that the government will act in the best interest of its people.
In
and what
world
we've learned
do we
today
assume
is
that?
that's apparently not the case. Well, we have assumed that for a long time.
And that is the problem. We keep
There's
assuming
also
it.
that problem that slow erosion of trust means that people don't want to vote because they don't think anything will ever change. So it's a double-edged sword, because how do you then persuade people actually you can make a difference when they do try to vote something in and get something done, it doesn't happen as well.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you. There is no quick solution to this. But what I would say is, if you find good people, promote the good people. If you find somebody that is actually doing some good work, get behind them, support them, give them some publicity. This is my problem: is we focus so much on the negative stuff, and we have to. But when there's something good happens, we're not there. So it puts good people off.
But then you get personalities in like Nigel Farage, and it's all about him. I don't particularly like Nigel Farage. I don't think it's going to work particularly. But the trouble is, when everybody is going up because they don't... I mean, I do a huge amount of reading. I listen to a lot of different podcasts, all sorts of different things.
Good job,
I
Louise.
see huge different things around it. But you see, with somebody like Nigel Farage, you see, they all go for that because they love the personality. And yet you've got to look a lot deeper than that to sort our problems out.
Oh, I completely agree. The personality politics has to stop in this country, and it is the reason we're in a lot of the mess.
Oh, come on.
No, it was the same with Boris Johnson. It was the same with Tony Blair. It's not just a Nigel Farage issue.
You need something to believe in.
Yes.
What we don't have, we have at the moment is someone who's the antithesis of a personality hire.
Well, you need somewhere in the middle. You see, you need something in the middle.
I'm pretty sure America's doing just fine under Donald Trump. I think they're doing just fine, and he's basically the icon for someone who's.
We're not America. This is the thing. Our political culture is not the same. We could never handle a Trump.
Well, we're becoming like that because we're sick and tired of these bureaucrats and these human rights lawyers running the country.
It is a reactionary moment.
Louise, thank you so much for your call. We're going to go to break now, but after this break, more of your calls, texts. We've maybe got some WhatsApp voice notes. I'm not sure if Matt's keyed in there, but we will come to that after the break.
hearing yet. We get to see how it progresses and what that appeal might mean for the future. But I mean, the fact the government is allowed to appeal, that could have, if that wasn't the case, then it would effectively tear apart the whole hotel system and leave the whole asylum hotel system in tatters.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Max in Somerset says, Samara, the government will now be fast-tracking the vast majority of these illegals to be granted citizenship, so claiming that they are emptying and they can then be housed throughout the country unless this government will be afraid to deport them. I agree, and also they will be voting citizens, which is even more concerning because I'm sure they'll vote for the people who accepted their application. And they also, a lot of those demographics do like to have children, so there'll be a lot of population there as well.
One thing I will say on that, though, is if there is the rise of these kind of, like, you know, the independent Gars and MPs, you've got Jeremy Corbyn's outfit, this idea that the Labour Party will suddenly get all of these votes, I don't think it's quite there. Just as a hypothetical.
You think Jezbollah will pick them up?
They might do, or they will, as I've been arguing for a long time, is that there will be a new political party focused purely on the kind of person that are asylum seekers, you know, that are more Islam focused.
Asylum party.
Yeah, there will be a
political
growth of
asylum.
that. But the other thing, and I've been saying this since I first started doing things at Talk, is that an amnesty is round the corner. To cut the backlog, to say that they've done something, an amnesty is coming, and we saw a little bit of a story the other day with the Refugee Council coming out and saying that there should be some temporary reprieve for people from certain countries as a kind of amnesty light.
Well, considering we've got a human rights lawyer for a Prime Minister, that's probably what's going to happen. Brum says, love you, Samara. It all started with that little place outside Birmingham that started putting our flags up in public places. If our government had the balls to say, we are proud to be British, there wouldn't be a problem for King and Country. Yeah, I agree. The government needs to be a bit more proud to be British. It's getting to a point of idiocracy. Evening. It's okay for Kevin Turvey, apparently that's your new name, to say it's our own fault for voting the clowns in. But when we vote for their manifesto, we get it in and they rip it up and they don't do what they promise. That's from Paul in Grimsby.
Vote them out.
Let's talk to Bob in Ludlow. Bob, how are you? Welcome to Talk.
Evening, guys. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I'm all right.
What did you want to say?
Okay, I mean, basically, I think a lot of people are missing the point here. Since '97, when Blair and co were elected, they basically opened the floodgates to migrants. Now, I can understand that some of it was probably party political in that they basically wanted their own voters, or to import their own voters or people that were more likely to vote for them in future elections because they'd let them into the country. But I think what they're missing is the fact that Blair and co and all the governments since then are all globalist. They've all got a globalist agenda one way and another. So basically what their agenda is for us, the indigenous British population, to integrate with the migrants, not the other way around.
That's really interesting, Bob. I mean, I think we forget the ECHR only really came into play kind of in the 90s. I mean, we do act as if when we repeal it, it's going to be, you know, all hell's going to break loose and we're not even going to be able to tie our shoes without some sort of issue coming awry.
Yeah.
So we can survive without the Human Rights Act.
The Human Rights Act was really only brought in because other nations didn't have it. You know, and that's one of the reasons that Britain kind of led the way on it. But what I will say is, we keep seeing this, and I think it is the definition of new two-party politics, and that is the globalist versus the more nation-state type of politics. But that is the real divide in our politics now at a very kind of core level. And I think we're starting to see what a more globalist government would look like, and we're living with it. And, you know, it's not like Keir Starmer didn't say any of this before the election. He was asked, which do you prefer, Westminster or Davos? And within a second, like a minute, he didn't even take a breath.
Yeah,
he said Davos. You know, this was evidently clear to people what this was likely, what we were going to get. Now, what I will say is, I think it's interesting how everybody keeps going back to Blair. I mean, I've done it 3 times. Every single caller seems to have gone back to Blair and 97. And what I will say is, in that period, the kind of the foundations were laid to allow this situation to happen. So when I keep saying that this was an inevitability, it's because if you follow this back far enough, you can find the root start of it, and it is with 1997.
We need to think of the future, Pete. We need to talk about the future.
You don't fix the future if you don't understand how you got there.
Bob, thank you for your call. Thank you for your contribution. Let's talk to Martin in Cambridge. Martin, welcome to the show.
Hello there. Yeah, I was working in Leeds just before the Brexit vote. There was a young lad, never voted, and he goes, I'm going to vote for Brexit. And because he wants to make his views, you know, his voice heard. And we said in 2016, we said in 2019, we said at the last election, we said it over and over again. I mean, in 1996, the indigenous white population was about 92, 93%. Right, it could be down to 70% within the next decade. We haven't voted for this, and the majority.
There is something to be said about the fact that Europeans and Brits, couples, kind of, they want to keep cats and dogs, and people from, you know, more ethnic background. I'm half Indian myself. You know, they like to have more kids, and that is what is happening in Britain.
Because in this country we made it so expensive to have children. The reason we have it isn't just immigration that it is a big problem, and so why there has been a decrease in the white population is why people keep fussing over it. There is a lot of other aspects go into it. The cost of childcare being a primary factor why this country has an ageing population. It's not just immigration, don't get me wrong, it plays a huge factor.
People didn't used to think about the cost of kids before.
Because it wasn't that expensive to have kids. This is the point. You know, not necessarily having one, it's having more than one.
Can I come
ridiculous. Yes, by all means.
Yeah, so I mean, my point is, what we've created is balkanisation. We haven't created a diverse society, we've created a divisive society.